Good morning, LinkedIn. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Let's Build Together. I think I'm going to commit to going live just straight with this one, not scheduling it. Maybe we can build some consistency and see what that does for the data over time. Still not sure scheduling events versus just going live, what that does to impressions or anything else for that matter. So maybe I need to actually formalize the study and find some consistency, and maybe we'll learn some stuff. We definitely will. It's about what and how important that will be, but that's not what we're talking about today. Well, it kind of is. Just want to give a quick review of the schedule this week. Some really exciting things going on. Also, just quickly, I'm just going to run through the newsletter. I was really excited to get the Let's Build Media YouTube site up to date over the weekend, and get all these coaches and experts who've been putting in the work and have committed to regular shows start building out their own playlists. See what we can do to highlight those topics for those who have been asking for it. Honestly, easier ways to find and consume the content. And we've got 61 episodes on this, or 61 videos on this channel. This doesn't include all the Let's Build Daily stuff, which currently still resides on the Convey Your Message channel. So maybe I'll clean that up at some point. But hopefully this is easier for everybody to access and find their favorite host and binge all the content, of course, learn some stuff. Last week was a ton of fun. Something interesting happened on Tuesday, and it's kind of why maybe let me come back to that. Actually, that's a part of why this series is working. I think some interesting notes there. We had our first episode with Anton talking about HubSpot websites. He's agreed to go weekly with me, at least for this month, except for inbound. So we're going to be talking to him again tomorrow. That's exciting. Always a great customer platform hug episode to be had. Got to chat with Jack Coopersmith about the evolution of HubSpot. And what was interesting there, felt like a bait and switch, but basically, trying to understand the difference between CRM and hubs, not the right question to be asking. It's very hard to talk about that without talking about underlying adoption and training issues, change management things. Doesn't really matter if you clearly define what these are if the system's not getting used. So super interesting conversation. Really exciting series still going on with George with his superhuman framework. Last week we talked about happiness, I think. Nope, it was being a helpful human. How to be helpful. Some powerful stuff. I think my first official unboxing of a marketplace app with David and Aldo from Kixie. That was a great time. Really thank them for sharing. And one thing to note there, it's, the reason marketplaces can work, they provide exposure to people who need the exposure, but when it's designed for the marketplace itself and not necessarily for, the companies using it, it was interesting. We found out, like, even though it's listed as sales and calling and a dialer, right, it does so much more than that. So was glad to be able to share that, with you guys. And then had a nice, possibly one-off, possibly maybe series in the future with my friend Connor Delaney from Impact. They've got some really great self-service, like kind of a self-service campaign going on right now, like just outlining all the 5 types of tools, like cost calculators and product configurators, and the things that HubSpot happens to make really easy. It's not a focus on HubSpot, but it's a big part of engaging the buyer in the journey. So that was a great conversation. And this week, I was going to do some shows yesterday, but decided to take the opportunity to catch up and get YouTube updated and start to work towards a bigger vision with Let's Build Media. So that felt really good to get that done. The admin hug later today with James Fife, how to close more deals with HubSpot. Now this is where just words and preconceived notions matter so much. So when I see stuff like this, I it's really hard not to shut it off immediately, just because I feel like I've heard it all when it comes to sales and using tricks and easy buttons and all these things to close more deals, and it just causes poor behavior. And I'll leave my baggage to the side for a moment. But I want to highlight, and this is why I want to keep highlighting whoever's adding content or whoever's providing value in their own way to share their knowledge and insights. I didn't read through it, but then once I saw what happened was this morning, I was looking at Hub XOS, something that Paul Sullivan's doing, which is so super interesting. I put it on here because it's a hug. It's the SaaS UK hug. And he's using this as a mechanism, which I think is great. Like, obviously, this would be pretty shitty if there was malintent or like some kind of buying process or some kind of profitability outlook, right, for why you would use this channel. But what's cool is that this is an event like, a bunch of hugs in one, almost. Like, it's a playbook event, really focused on, actionable takeaways, playbooks. And I didn't really know about it. And I had heard about it through some other people that were speaking, but hadn't really looked into it. So the reason I highlight it, if I can get to it over here for a second, is because as I was looking at the agenda for this event, and I'm going to have Paul on the show next week to recap how the event went. And this is the first year, and I think we have aligned goals of trying to educate the community using community knowledge in new and different ways. So I wanted to highlight this because I saw James Fife. I noticed that he was at this event, and his title is different here. So, custom quote to cash, streamlining your unique sales cycle. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the content is very similar to this. Since now I read this, it's all about automating and creating, customized quotes, contracts, and stuff like that. So just something I wanted to share, the 2 different titles. And here, like, maybe this is a note for the for Kyle and Deanna. you're talking to admins here. Or maybe it's for Paul or James. I mean, you're talking to admins here. I think, let's see here. Nope. This title might land better with the admins. It certainly landed better with me. It's more about making the system work instead of focusing everything on closing deals, which is important, but like I said, can often lead to less than stellar behavior by the team. So just wanted to highlight that as we run through. Today we got a new show time for Danielle. Let's build workspaces in HubSpot. Not sure what we're talking about yet. Hoping to get into the sales workspace beta, the new updated version of the prospecting workspace. We submitted for that a while ago, but maybe that's kind of frozen until inbound. Wouldn't be surprised if there were some announcements there related to sales, and especially as we're bringing all these AI tools together and this data. But excited to start the Tuesday time slot with Danielle this week. So if you're used to seeing her on Friday, I want to either tune in on Tuesdays now or be sure to check the recording. Third session with Lucy Abal tomorrow. Let's build a HubSpot super admin. This has been so fun. We've only done 2, but it's a valuable conversation to be having right now. Super admins in HubSpot are very, super admins and leaders, I think, have some confusion around what the role is supposed to be, how you manage across, how you move from point solution to full customer platform, and what is the super admin responsible for. Certainly they cannot be responsible for the management of the activity inside 6 different hubs. They can be aware of what's going on and support it, but they cannot be managing all these different teams and doing all these different things in the system. So that's been a great conversation. George and I are talking about humility this week, pillar number 4 on the journey of the superhuman framework. And then continuing with Nico Lafakis, adjusting the time here. And maybe I should have added why. There's a Pete Caputa is putting on an event all about providing data for business podcasts, and I really wanted to go and participate in that because a lot of people refer to this show as a podcast. And I've learned a lot over almost 150 shows. It'll be 150 next week. So maybe I can share something of value or just, learn something myself, something I haven't been thinking about. And then got inbound coming up, of course, and still nailing down speakers for our next customer platform hug on September 25th. But the week after inbound, we'll definitely be doing some kind of recap. And in that, I think we'll be able to tie it to the last layer of the customer platform, which is the HubSpot connected ecosystem. Since it's inbound, see the whole ecosystem in one place, and really the power of it and the value of it. You just see firsthand. It's so tangible. It's really hard to describe, but haven't experienced it anywhere else. And it is because of the connected ecosystem. HubSpot creates the space and the ecosystem comes together at inbound. So maybe I can get a little quicker on that, maybe not. But hopefully, I can keep this up and start to keep everybody in the loop. If you like what's going on, please follow Let's Build Media, the Let's Build Media page to stay to stay up to speed as much as you can in this changing ecosystem. And if there's other highlights, I started linked to Kyle's newsletter here, HubSpot Tips and Tricks. Trying to help consolidate and curate content. It's been a lot of pain shared from people trying to learn HubSpot right now, as they've got to go to too many places. So see what we can do to help them out with that is part of the goal of Let's Build Media. So why is this working? And working in a sense of like really, if we go to, let's see, go to the page here, working, with the goal of really educating the community, closing this gap is what I mean by working. It's certainly not generating a ton of revenue. I could definitely tie some trust and goodwill to it, but haven't been trying to create any revenue or additional business from it. Definitely a lot of relationships and educating. Like, I hope to get together soon a case study of what's been happening, especially through the course of 150 shows. I think there's a lot to be learned. And one thing I'm starting to take away, because I spend one day a week at the XRF company office division. I'm helping one of the divisions there grow that company. It's my old stomping ground, reference materials analysis. And just spending a day back in the office, like juxtaposed to the digital communication, and always thinking about why are these gaps? Why do they exist? I think Superd's approach to training in the task is super, like, I love that vision, and I think it's going to play a big role in helping close the gap. But one thing I'm noticing with the show, and this is where I noticed the feedback and the results before kind of connecting it to what I think is the reason, because I don't want to take it for granted. I'm definitely doing a little bit of self-indulging by just going live every day and creating content. It's something that I'm loving a lot. It's definitely where I want to be. But constantly, like, don't want to take it for granted and want to make sure it's working for the people that I'm engaging to, like all these coaches. And I love getting connection requests, and I ask why, and somebody mentions a specific show from one of these coaches. They love it. I love it. And that's how we know we're on the right track. But when I think about why this is working and why it hasn't been done before, come back to like this knowledge and skills gap that I've been watching, grow since 2011 in the industrial space. And as I come into the HubSpot space, the SaaS space, I don't see it, especially as HubSpot has changed so much from 2020. All of our usual education mechanisms of knowledge base, academy, and community they're just not working, right? A lot of people are trying to solve for that right now. And I'm not going to be the guy that does a bunch of tutorials or pre-recorded, scripted, on-demand videos. It's just, I couldn't get myself to do it. But what I can do is share my thoughts out loud, share my experiences, and help others do the same. And when I think about, why it's working, in that I'm getting students, interns, new account executives, customer success, people from all over the ecosystem and inside of HubSpot themselves. Pro tip, if you ever want to get the attention of a HubSpot product manager, just do an unboxing of the tool that you know they're in charge of. They love it. And it's one of the only ways to get, real feedback in their hands, real organic feedback. So why is it working? As I think about, and let's see how I can do this. All right. Okay. So maybe I need to go. I've been connecting it to like the lack of communication in organizations. Like as I was trying to do new things, constantly thinking about why those things didn't work, and what I could have done differently. And let me just start over here. Always wondering why we are where we are, both from a perspective of like what could be better, but also like how are companies so successful without these things that we are suggesting are foundational, right? So can I just get a square? Let me just get a square. There we go. And that is like internal communication plans, CRMs, tech stack plans, current state maps, process maps. Now, of course, a lot of these things exist on the production side of the house, the non-people side of the house, but we've gone a long time without being able to standardize customer-facing processes and teams and how we approach that. So what has come to mind is I've been thinking about communication a lot. And I started thinking about it in terms of all the things that need to happen to successfully communicate something to somebody. And I'm sure there's probably like, some kind of framework that exists already. I never studied communications in school, so this is all from experience, mainly from what hasn't worked for me. But tying it back to like why companies have been able to be so successful without these things in place. And let me just kind of set the stage here. And I've been thinking about it in terms of, no, that's not what I want to do. These like 5 or 6 stages that have to, take place where it's, so let me just get into it. It's really haven't formalized this at all, but just been thinking about a lot. And I think it relates to why this is working, but also why companies have been able to get away without it for so long. Right. So let's say the first stage is something to say, and let's make sure if I can just highlight all these, everything is white. Okay. Stage number 1 is having something to say. Stage number 2 is maybe like formulating the communication of that something. Stage 3. Sending the communication. Now, on the other side, we have the receiver of the communication. And maybe these aren't stages, because I've been thinking about how to map these against each other. We definitely have, let's say, if I do this and just call this engagement. Like there's this engagement layer, right? Where let me just get this out of my head. So kind of acknowledge receipt of communication. Stage 4. Consume the communication. Just take it in, read it, watch it. And let's say stage 6, we have a understand the communication. And so as I've and if we this isn't going to work probably the way I want it to, but let's say just move this over here and we copy this. I'm just going to spin this around, right? And it has to go the other way, like from the sender or from the receiver. If we can, let's say, do that and this. So if we have, and we've got engagement, let's do that like here. So a lot of communication steps here. And what I'm feeling, because the insight that I feel like I've gained over the last month or so is that just in-person conversations, all of this happens just real time. Like you've got body language, you've got tone of voice, you've got, just demeanors. Like as humans, that's the way we're built to communicate. So you don't need to worry about these 6 stages, going back and forth each way. It's the natural course of conversation. As it relates to training, like the digital age has removed the emphasis on over the shoulder shadowing ride-alongs. And I'll be the first to say that ride-alongs cannot be the only way, or they should not be the only way you train. That's what takes 6 months to 12 months. Like if you're onboarding a new sales guy and all they've got is ride-alongs. But without it, and this brings me to the point of why I think this series is working, is this conversational approach to training and sharing knowledge. We don't have it in the digital space. It's very hard to find because it's time intensive. There's no shortcut, right? There's no easy button. It's the opposite of asynchronous. But I think it's needed. Like, and maybe that's what's been missing from digital transformation. And that's why it hasn't been successful. We've forgotten about that natural human element. We fill up our calendars with other kinds of communication meetings. Like all the stuff that should be asynchronous is the things that we talk about in the meetings. And I'm just thinking about this out loud. Because we never get to that point since we don't have internal communication strategies, because we didn't need them when everybody's in the same office, seeing each other every day, right? It just, communication was there because that's how you got your job done. As you build in all these asynchronous systems and tools, whether you want to or not, because the customer is asking you for it, they're on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or any of the platforms, and that's where they want to be active, and you try to serve them there, and you don't kind of take into account these stages, and you treat it just like a live conversation. It's a challenge because you can't do all of this, in one fell swoop. It's impossible. Video get you close. Video calls get you close. Phone calls are the next thing. Then we have, social media, probably social media, SMS, direct messages. But then how much should we try to do via email, where literally every one of these stages might be a different email. And it's tough. So that's just, what was on my mind today. I won't try not to go too long, but trying to, flesh that out, mainly in the face of like, these companies have been successful. We're telling them they need CRM. We're telling them they need communications and communications training. Like, how did they get this far without it? Why don't more businesses train on communications? I have to think, as I see everything that happens in the moment, face to face with other humans, that communication, it just does so much in terms of getting the job done effectively from a communication standpoint, that when you take it out, you take that in-person contact out, and you don't follow all these stages, and you don't understand all the elements involved, that's hard enough. But when you're trying to train and share knowledge through these asynchronous mechanisms, nope, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And we got to find a better way. And I'm not saying my way is the better way, but it's doing some things that I hoped it would do in terms of having deeper conversations about complex topics that there is no tutorial for, there is no academy course for. HubSpot is not built to train via these old mechanisms. It changes every day. It's no longer a point solution. We don't even know what it is for most organizations. Most organizations don't know what it is for them. So how can we possibly point to videos or create on-demand content, or even create vetting mechanisms for experts to know that, oh yeah, I know I can work with this person. Without seeing some level of conversational content or show and tell, or some kind of thing that says, I need to know, I need to build trust, right? I think we're going to see we already are seeing a lot of people innovate in and around this space. How do we close this knowledge gap? It's a great thing to see. Hopefully, everybody's getting value out of the series. If there's topics that you want to see, or you want to be on the show yourself, please don't hesitate to reach out and send me a message, because we're building something pretty special here. Not just my words. I'm getting a lot of great feedback to suggest we're doing something right over here. So going to continue building. And when you're thinking about knowledge gaps or thinking about which content you'd like to see or maybe you'd like to share, find some opportunities and let's grow. Have a great week, everybody.